There is another movie about the villages that you can watch, and it's a documentary called The Bubble, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get started. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Rusty Nelson, and welcome. Yep, there's another documentary out about the villages if you haven't heard about it. And it is called The Bubble. And what we're going to do today is go over kind of a little bit about the documentary and how this is presented on YouTube, and then I'll give you my opinion. Now, before I get started, the normal thing, thank you so much for subscribing and liking. I really appreciate it. The second part, last time I did a review of the past documentary on the villages, I got a bunch of criticism by saying, because I said that for a movie, in other words, it is a movie, and it was not a documentary, is that I kind of liked it for a movie. Did it represent the villages? No. And a lot of people say, well, what do you know about making movies? Well, it just so happens I spent about 18 years down in LA. And although I was not a Spielberg, that's for sure, I did make a couple of movies. I directed for Fox. And I'll show you a picture here. And then I get a really bad horror movie and all kinds of stuff. But I do know a little bit about it, and I know a little bit about writing and what people to go through. So with that said, I am going to show you right now the trailer to this movie, and then we're going to talk about how this is presented on YouTube. Here's the trailer.
Many of you have moved down here to sunny Florida to retire. Say amen. Yeah. You came down here to Retirement USA. Yeah.
When we grew up, a retirement home was a place where you went to go and die. This place will add 10 years to your life.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy.
You can relax and enjoy life.
Happy whatever day this is.
The villages offers that escapism, and I think they underestimate what they cost the community at large. Oh! What makes the villages the villages? They want to control everything.
The villages have their own rules and regulations. That's because they got money.
You just keep buying hunks of land and adding more and more.
This is the fastest growing community probably in the U.S.
We know we're in a bubble, but it's a nice bubble.
Fox News on the Voice of the Villages.
This is a weird social experiment.
How did we get in this situation?
My impression is not that the villagers are against you. Most of the villagers don't know what's going on.
It's nothing new. It's not the villages. It's how capitalism works.
They have taken everything.
People are working against this, so it's not just us.
At some point, it's just gonna be a head-to-head kind of fight.
I actually just got back from pickleball. I watched this movie last night, got some popcorn, sat down in front of the TV, and I kind of pulled up my britches and got comfortable and expected just a bam kind of thing in my face. And this is, and that's, I had to literally sit down and tell myself, relax before you watch this movie. Don't get all excited just watch it, because it's supposedly this one is a documentary. Now, how the whole thing starts, first of all, let me say, being in the film business and starting from the ground up, schlepping water around sets, and then learning to make short films, doing the film festival tour and all that type of thing. Valerie Blankenbyl, and sorry if I mispronounce these names. I am so sorry. Beat me up for it, I guess, but I'm trying really hard. Let me give her a lot of credit. She's from Austria, and you have no idea the pains that people go through to actually get these things out and complete one of these films. I mean, just doing these short things that I do here takes a lot of time, usually a day or two. And that's if I'm just sitting in front of it doing this. You know, last night was going over the movie, writing notes and everything else. And so congratulations to you, Valerie. Congratulations. So it turned out to not, the way it was presented on YouTube was not what I expected. And I'm going to play a short clip for the introduction to the movie, and you're going to get it right here. You'll understand what I'm talking about. And it is presented on a website or a YouTube channel called Vice. And its founder, Sarush Alvi. I'm sorry if I got that wrong too, but I'm doing my darndest. And let me tell you what Vice is, because it's kind of cool. You can go through there and see a bunch of videos besides this. And it says, about Vice, the definitive guide to enlightening information. From every corner of the planet, our immersive, caustic, groundbreaking, and often bizarre stories have changed the way people think about culture, crime, art, parties, fashion, protests, the internet, and other subjects that don't even have names yet. Browse the growing library of discovery and discover corners of the world you never knew existed. Welcome to Vice. Well, Sarush, yeah, I did. And good channel, really, really nice. If you get a chance to go for it, I'll put the links down below. But let me play this first clip of how this video started. And I hadn't read all the stuff I just told you of how this started. And it kind of got me going like this. And you'll understand, and you'll get introduced to Sarush real quick. Watch the clip.
These are folks who have a very clear idea of society and what it should be, and it matches perfectly with what the developers provide them.
Today we're screening The Bubble, a film that takes place inside a retirement community that's like a college campus for the elderly, with a lot of golf, booze, and guns. Getting old doesn't have to be depressing. These people have worked hard, and now they're playing hard.
Do you miss your families at all?
No. It's the fastest growing municipality in the United States, a sprawling American utopia for mostly white boomers. And where else but Florida? Directed by Valerie Blankenbyl, here's The Bubble.
I really don't want to do, I like this movie, I didn't like this movie, I thought about doing that or why or anything like a normal critique, because it's kind of not normal the way it's presented to you on YouTube. In other words, what has happened here, Vice has come on, they've put it on, they're presenting it almost like you would at a film festival. And usually after a film festival, which I've done these interview type things a few times myself, they interview, or they have the directors, producers, writers, whatever it may deal with, get up and stand up and answer questions after the film. As I watched this, I thought, you know what? If anybody wants to watch this, and they're not going to get their britches all up in a huff if you live there, and if you don't live there, you're going to watch it and you're going to go, because the beginning of it kind of gives you the idea that it's a bunch of preaching, white, gun-toting, prejudiced people in the villages. It kind of comes off that way, at least to me. And I may be a little sensitive because I got property down there. The truth is, to people that don't live down there that watch this, let me tell you something. I've never heard anything racial down there. In fact, just the opposite, actually. Everybody's really welcoming. They don't care whether you're pink, white, blue, pink, purple, yellow, whatever. And the gay, lesbian, LGBTQ, I personally don't see it. Now, you got 135,000 people down there, 140,000, whatever it is. you're going to have some people that say stupid things and do stupid things, and that's what the media catches on to. But I can tell you right now, after owning a house down there for a year, I've never had anybody tell me anything about guns. I've never gone into a church and listened to a bunch of preaching people. And I'm not saying it's not there. I'm not saying the guns aren't there, but it's just not what's in the forefront. And that's one of the slight problems with this documentary, is the fact that there's these clips in the beginning, and you'll understand what I mean. There's a bunch of preaching. There's golf carts that come out in formation out of their driveway, and that's not done unless the director lines that up. So there's those types of things that give you that feeling that that is the primary every single day type thing. And like I said, for people that haven't seen it, haven't seen the villages or been to the villages, it's not what it's like. You're not going to experience that at all. For people that are there, take it with a grain of salt. Because I'm going to tell you what, when you get to the end of this, that's presented by Vice, and I'll tell you about this in a second, I thought it was pretty cool what transpired at the end of this. So the other thing too is they started this film in 2017, I think. She said, the director said, the first time that they came over here. And I'm not going to spout out a lot what happened in the interview because you can watch it yourself. So you figure that's 2017. It's right now, while I'm doing this, we're approaching 2023. They talk about the amenity fee being $150, which we know it hasn't been $150 for a little while. And they show you this map, and I'll flick a picture up of this map, and you can see where the bottom of that comes down to. It's barely, like, it comes down into the Fenny area type thing, and the whole southern part of that is not even in there yet. With that said, and that warning, until you get to about 16 minutes or so, you kind of hear sort of positive things about the villages, minus the part where you go, okay, we don't drive our golf carts in formation, that type of thing. And then all of a sudden you have, if you want to call them the protagonists, then you have the antagonists, I guess, which start to come through. And I'll play you this one clip of this lady. I think her name's Lauren Ricci, and I'll put that up there. And she has actually worked for, I don't know whether she works there anymore, but she kind of comes off as if she's a reporter, but she's not a reporter. She is a columnist. And a columnist gets paid at a newspaper for their opinion, usually. It's their opinion. It's not a journalist, which is so hard to find a journalist these days. But a journalist reports both sides and kind of gives you the information unbiased and lets you decipher it. A columnist gives you their opinion. She kind of becomes part of the antagonist along with some other characters, and I use those words loosely. But take a look at this clip of her, and then I'll come back on in a second.
Explain a little bit about, the difference between privately owned and public, because there seem to be gates everywhere. Can you talk to me about gates?
These are all public roads. By law, they cannot keep you from driving through the villages. But for some reason, the villages has gotten away with putting gates up there. I have no idea why. They can't. It'd be like putting a gate on U.S. Highway 441 and just going, Okay, stop the traffic. We need to just see who you are. That's all those gates are there for. They can't stop you by law, and when they do, they shouldn't be.
So there you go. Enter, I'll use the word antagonist for the best. Now, there are definitely other characters on here, and you'll start to see both sides. In other words, the people that live in the villages and the people that criticize them and have their opinions of it. Now, she sits there in her nice office and she criticizes for all the expansion and everything else. She seems to forget, though, that probably where her office was used to be farmland at one time also, and that expansion has to take place. So those things are kind of left out, but we kind of know how that works, right? And so you see this banter back and forth, and there are some legitimate things that some of the local people are saying, but I can imagine, at least in my head, that this has taken place all over the country anytime there is expansion. I'm sure that people said that about Philadelphia's expanded out into the farmlands. Also, the thing that because of the time frame that this was taken, and I'm not sure when each one of these things was shot, but it ends up to be up in the northern part of the villages. So you don't see what I see when I'm down in St. Catherine, and that's a lot of people in their 50s, late 50s, early 60s. A lot of them still working, work at home, and that type of thing. So it's a little bit different than kind of what you're seeing for those of you that don't live in the villages. And for those of you that live in the villages, you're probably going, well, that doesn't look like my neighborhood or where I live or the people that I know. So there is those demographics within the villages because it's simply that big. Now, we know there's kind of both sides of the story, and I really don't need to tell you much more about that. But the great thing I thought about this was the interview at the end. And like I said, a lot of film festivals have these interviews with the actors, writers, directors, producers, or whatever, where people ask them questions and talk to them. And I'm going to play you just a clip of the introduction so you can see the two people, the director and the interviewer, in this. And I thought right away when I first saw it, and this is just me, I looked at the set that he was at and I go, oh, they got a little bit of money in this. They're doing a nice job of it. Not quite like my set here, but And so anyway, just watch this. And then I'm going to show you a short clip after that where I think she hits some points right on the nose. And I'll get back with you.
Today, coming in from Vienna, Austria, is the director of The Bubble, Valerie Blankenbyl.
Hi there.
It's a fascinating film. Tell me a little bit about how you came up with this idea for the documentary, being, in Europe. Why did you decide to focus on this community in Florida?
Well, it was during a time where my parents were thinking of retiring, and I talked a lot to them about how it felt being in the last years of work and thinking about retirement and what their ideas were for retirement. And talking to them and other people around them, I kept hearing the same things, which I found really interesting, which was that people felt like they weren't taken as seriously anymore in this life phase, that they were asked for advice less and less, that they felt like they needed to find their place in society again, and that they didn't quite know where that place was. The Swiss producer, Dario Schoch, he then found the villages in a newspaper article. I was immediately fascinated by the place, and we very quickly decided to go and research. That was 2017. And I went there with the DP, with Joe Berger, the first time, and then the second time with the producer, Dario Schoch. And it became very clear that this was exactly the right place to tell a story about aging, retiring, and places where retirees felt more comfortable than in regular society.
For myself, this is where this documentary started to become really interesting, and that was the interview with the director. So I think Vice did a great job with this. I thought the interview was really well done. I'm going to play one or two more clips, and the one clip I'm really excited about because she says something absolutely wonderful. But in this one, she just in the beginning, I got the feeling that she wasn't coming to the table with a chip on her shoulder, and this wasn't going to be a hit piece. She was really coming to investigate the place. And, a friend of mine said to me, well, why is it somebody from over Australia doing the thing on the Villages here? Why would they, well, just like she said, she was there because she kind of got sparked by her parents, wondering about her parents' retirement over there. And I thought it was actually kind of a cool idea. Now, this next clip, watch this next clip because I really believe my experience with the Villages, this is exactly how I feel about most of the Villages and my experience. And if you have this to take away, which she obviously did, I think you felt the real heart of the Villages. See whether you disagree or agree with me. Check it out.
But I had a really interesting experience there with one of our protagonists, with Terry, who is the president of the gun club. And it's one of the biggest clubs in the Villages, which was what interested me about it. And so we spent a lot of time with him. And I was just surprised that you could have such open, discussions with somebody where you're really not on the same political spectrum. And it just surprised me that Terry, he had his very strict political views, but I could talk to him. And I don't know, I was just surprised that I could still also like somebody who was politically so different to me.
Yeah.
Without getting political, what she just said, I think, is one of the greatest things that I've found so far about the Villages. Now, I'm not saying there's not extremes at either end, but generally the people that I've found have their own opinions, and that's the way they are, all right? Not saying one way or the other, but the thing is, the overriding factor is that everybody's there to live out, quote, the rest of their life, have a good time, and be active. And they really, most of them don't have time to be arguing with each other about that type of thing, right? And what she says there is that she was surprised. So in her head, she had predetermined, possibly, I mean, I can't do what's in her head, but possibly what it would be like being with this president of the club, the gun club. And she finds out that no, that's not what it's really like. So for folks that don't live in the Villages, realize that this exemplifies what I feel it's like in the Villages also. So pretty cool comment for her. And right here, I'm going to play one last quote from her so you get a general idea of what this is about. And then I'm going to give you my opinion of the full thing when we come back.
And so there was an interesting exchange there, but I think that people in the Villages have very little interaction with people that have different backgrounds, which is the dangerous thing of bubbles like that. Not just in the Villages, but anywhere where it's just like-minded people living together, because you never hear anybody who thinks differently to you. And so for me, coming from my European filmmaking bubble, it was also important to encounter people that were very different from me.
And there you go. She makes her comment about people, living inside the bubble, that you don't get any contact with people out there. But at the same time, she says that she's the same way, that she lives, and trust me, I know the filmmaking little bubble. How to get in, to be in contact with people outside of her European filmmaking bubble. And Valerie, trust me, I understand the tight quarters of the filmmaking bubble, definitely. So I think the director came with a pretty level head. I think that everybody will have an opinion on what they think of the film. And I liked it. I thought it was good. I had to hold back a little bit when I saw some things that I go, man, that's not really The Villages. But as a filmmaker, I understand why she did it. And some really cool photography. So hats off to the DP. I thought it was good. And I think it's worth a watch. I think the thing that makes it really powerful, and Sharush Advice did a really good job of this, is the interview at the end, because it's really interesting for me to see how she felt about coming over here and doing the film and what she walked away with. And I'm sure it was a lot. So I would say if you like this type of film, a documentary, and this actually has characters in it, so it's not like a historical documentary, it's worth a watch. I mean, grab some popcorn and definitely hang around for the interview. I thought that was really good. So Sharush, Valerie, congratulations. Good thing to bring out to YouTube, and I'm sure a lot of people enjoy it. I hope they take away the right things from it. I'm a villager, and if you ever get into the Philadelphia area or down in Florida again, love to talk to you, go out to lunch or something like that. It'd be really interesting to get back inside the filmmaking bubble again, since I've kind of walked away from it. And anyway, if you made it this far, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you enjoy it. Love to hear your comments down below. And as always, I'll either see you down in the Villages or I'll see you back here on YouTube. Don't forget to go to the link below to watch this on YouTube, and have a wonderful day.